Want to get scared? Ready for it? Alright, here we go. What are you doing? Hello to all the fans of the 80s. Dan here from 80s Vault, and today I'm taking you on a chilling trip back to the films that completely terrified me when I was a kid growing up during the 80s. Now, by modern standards, these movies might not seem like the scariest films ever made, and maybe they aren't even the most frightening from that decade. But back then they left a deep impression on my young mind. We were a lot less used to shocking imagery at that time, and the practical effects felt incredibly real, which made these movies feel genuinely haunting to me. So today I'm counting down from number 20 all the way to number 1, ranking these films from the least frightening to the ones that scared me the most, and showing how each one affected me. Are you ready to revisit some childhood nightmares? Let's jump right in. At number 20 we have Gremlins. This dark comedy introduced audiences to Gizmo, the adorable Mogwai who came with a very specific set of care instructions. But if those rules were broken, chaos would follow. As a kid, the thought that cute little creatures could transform into mischievous monsters if you fed them after midnight was both fascinating and a little disturbing. Later in life, when I became a parent, I realized the idea is actually true. Just replace the creatures with your own kids. Here's an interesting piece of trivia. This movie was so influential that together with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, it helped lead to the creation of the PG-13 rating because of its mix of comedy and horror elements. Well, I have something here, Harry. Take your mind off of it. Come on, Richard. Please shelter. Number 19 takes us to Creepshow, a horror anthology created by the master of horror Stephen King and the legendary George Romero. The film presents a collection of creepy stories that had something unsettling for everyone watching. One segment that stayed with me was the one where Leslie Nielsen's character takes revenge by burying Ted Danson up to his neck on the beach. The feeling of helplessness and the looming sense of doom made it incredibly disturbing. Fun fact, Stephen King not only wrote the screenplay for the movie but also appeared on screen in the segment titled The Lonesome Death of Geordie. It really showed his acting ability, and honestly, he was pretty creepy in that role. Number 18 gives us a punk-style twist on zombie movies with Return of the Living Dead. The film was both entertaining and frightening at the same time. It introduced a new kind of zombie, creatures that craved brains, moved quickly, and could even talk. This was very different from the slow-moving zombies audiences had been used to for decades. That change made the whole concept even scarier and added something new to zombie mythology. Interestingly, this movie is actually where the famous idea of zombies wanting to eat brains first came from. And, of course, there's that unforgettable line, "Send more cops." Charlie, this is our next-door neighbor, Jerry Dandridge. Hello, Charlie. At number 17 we have Fright Night, and I absolutely love this movie. The story takes place in a normal suburban neighborhood, much like the one I grew up in. A teenage boy realizes that the man living next door is actually a vampire. Unfortunately, none of his friends or the adults around him believe that a real threat exists. The skepticism makes the situation even more tense. The special effects and transformation scenes were incredibly impressive at the time and definitely increased the creepiness factor. Did you hear that? I heard it. What was it? Could be a lot of things. Yeah, a coyote. There aren't any coyotes in England. The Hound of the Baskervilles. Pecos Bill. Heathcliff. Heathcliff didn't help. No, but he was on the moor. Number 16 is the classic An American Werewolf in London. The film blends horror with dark humor, but the transformation scene was absolutely groundbreaking. Watching the painful and detailed process of a human turning into a werewolf was terrifying and unforgettable. It certainly made a lot of people think twice about backpacking through unfamiliar places. Another notable fact is that the movie won the very first Academy Award for Best Makeup, thanks to the incredible work of Rick Baker. Then we reach number 15 with Cujo. Cujo, what's the matter? This film turned a normally lovable Saint Bernard into a terrifying threat after the dog was bitten by a rabid bat. Cujo becomes a relentless danger, trapping a mother and her son inside their car. The claustrophobic situation and the idea that a friendly family pet could suddenly become deadly made the movie especially frightening for me when I was young. Interestingly, the production used 5 different dogs to portray Cujo, and in certain shots they even used a man wearing a dog suit. Number 14 is The Howling, another classic werewolf movie. The story follows a news reporter who retreats to a remote colony after experiencing a traumatic event, only to discover that the place hides a dark secret involving werewolves. The tense atmosphere throughout the movie is effective, but the transformation scenes are particularly frightening. I have to admit that I watched this film when I was far too young, and it gave me nightmares that I'm pretty sure lasted for decades. Seriously, don't let your kids watch movies like this too early. There's also one movie that probably isn't on many lists but scared me a lot as a kid because it tapped into the fear of being completely alone at the end of the world. In the story, a comet wipes out most of humanity except for people who happen to be inside metal structures. The film follows 2 sisters who become some of the last survivors, wandering through empty cities. They meet both friendly people and zombie-like survivors, but the truly terrifying idea was the possibility of being one of the last people alive on Earth. Number 12 is Predator, which perfectly blends action with horror. The film introduces an alien hunter that stalks a group of commandos led by Arnold Schwarzenegger. The tension of being hunted by an enemy that can turn invisible, along with the brutal deaths throughout the film, made it incredibly intense to watch. After seeing it, I definitely thought twice about going into the woods alone. Finally, number 11 is The Twilight Zone, the movie. This anthology film recreates several classic stories from the original television series. One segment in particular, the famous Nightmare at 20,000 Feet story about a creature on the wing of an airplane, really terrified me. After seeing that, every time I flew, I found myself nervously checking the wings just in case something was out there. Sadly, the movie is also remembered for a tragic accident during filming that caused the deaths of actor Vic Morrow and 2 child actors, which later led to major changes in safety regulations across the film industry. Talk to me, damn it. Alright, then I'll make you talk. I said talk to me, damn it, or I'm throwing you into the fire. And with that, we're entering the top 10. At number 9 we have The Evil Dead. Honestly, it could easily be number 1, but for this list I'm placing it at number 9. The film was directed by Sam Raimi, and even though it was made on a very small budget, it delivers huge scares. The story follows a group of people who end up isolated inside a cabin deep in the woods, where a terrifying demonic possession begins to unfold. 2 particular scenes completely stuck in my mind. One is the moment when they're trying to guess the cards, and the girl suddenly starts shouting the answers incredibly fast. The other is that creepy creature hiding under the floor grate, with its hands reaching out and delivering sarcastic, horrifying responses. The movie never lets up, and it stayed with me for years. A fun behind-the-scenes detail: the fake blood used during filming was actually made from corn syrup, non-dairy creamer, and red food coloring. Since the movie was shot out in the woods, the sticky mixture made things messy and even attracted swarms of insects. Coming in at number 8 is The Fly, starring Jeff Goldblum. He plays a scientist who slowly transforms into a horrifying human-fly hybrid. The transformation is both tragic and disturbing, and the graphic visuals push the concept of body horror to the extreme. It also works as a cautionary tale about the dangers of playing God. The film even won an Academy Award for Best Makeup thanks to its incredible and gruesome special effects. At number 7 we return to the work of horror legend Stephen King with Pet Sematary, based on his novel. The story explores themes of grief, loss, and the unnatural consequences of disturbing death. The concept of a burial ground that can bring the dead back to life, but never quite the same way, is deeply unsettling. The scenes involving the toddler Gage were especially frightening. It made you nervous even walking near the edge of a bed, half expecting something to reach out and grab your ankles. Number 6 is Friday the 13th, the movie that helped launch the wave of slasher films that followed. The story takes place at Camp Crystal Lake, where camp counselors are stalked by a mysterious killer. The tension and violent deaths shocked audiences at the time. Interestingly, the character Jason Voorhees wasn't actually the killer in this first film, but the twist ending still stunned viewers. And, of course, there's that unforgettable sound, kill, 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 which still sends chills down my spine. At number 5, we have Poltergeist. This movie made a lot of people uneasy about televisions and static. The haunting of what seemed like a perfectly normal suburban family felt disturbingly close to home. The terrifying scenes with the clown doll and the tree outside the window were pure nightmare fuel. There's also a long-standing urban legend about a supposed poltergeist curse connected to the tragic deaths of several cast members after the film was released. Number 4 is Aliens, the sequel directed by James Cameron to Alien. While it increases the action, it never sacrifices the horror. The terrifying xenomorph creatures appear in greater numbers and are even more aggressive. The confined environments and relentless tension keep you constantly on edge. Ellen Ripley's final confrontation with the alien queen is both thrilling and terrifying. Actress Sigourney Weaver even received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, something extremely rare for a performance in a sci-fi action movie. At number 3 comes A Nightmare on Elm Street, which introduced audiences to the unforgettable villain Freddy Krueger. The terrifying idea that you could be killed in your dreams made it impossible to feel safe even while sleeping. The film constantly blurs the line between dreams and reality. Freddy's burned appearance and dark humor made him one of horror's most memorable villains. The movie also featured the first film role for Johnny Depp, who played one of Freddy's victims. At number 2 is The Thing, directed by John Carpenter. It's an incredible example of paranoia-driven horror combined with disturbing body transformations. The isolated Antarctic setting intensifies the feeling of desperation and